Hey everybody, welcome back to Harmon Garage. As you can tell, I'm not in the shop today. And the reason I'm not in the shop is because I picked up something I've been looking for a long time, and we're gonna do a little revival out here. So what we're messing with today is a 1992 International 3800 chassis with a Thomas bus body on it. It's got a DT 466 P-pump motor, and that's about all I know about it. Bought it off the internet, sight unseen. Looks like it has tires, and looks like there's a body on it, and that's about all I know. So I'm going to pop the hood, check the fluids and stuff. I brought batteries. I brought a little box with some water and some oil and a few tools, and I've got 2 bottles of Mountain Dew. So I guess we can look it over real quick. It's already been gutted, which is nice. I have plans for this, and I've been looking for one for quite a while, and I finally found one for a good deal, so we bought it. Get the hood up here real quick. There's our DT, hydraulic brakes, power steering. So I'm going to get set up, and I'll check all the fluids, and we'll see where we're going from there. Okay, sorry guys, it's a little bit windy out here. My wife dropped me off and had my 1-year-old with, so she had to get back to go pick the kids up from school. I don't know if I already said that or not, but she brought me out here, dropped me off, and she was worried about leaving me here, so had to deal with that. And while she was talking, I put the new batteries in because I knew it was going to need batteries. The story is it's been sitting here for a few years, and that's all I know. It's been sitting for a few years, and they don't know nothing else about it. I don't know nothing else about it. So first thing I'm going to do is go through, check all the fluids, and make sure that's good. I got the new batteries in, and then we'll go in, check, make sure we got power or whatever else. So, but I'm going to go grab a rag, and then we'll start checking fluids on this thing. Found our oil dipstick tube. Pull it out and wipe it down. Oil smells good. It's a little dirty, but that's typical for a diesel. I mean, I should probably change it, but I didn't bring the stuff to do it, so we're just going to send it, see what happens. Looks like it's about a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch low on the dipstick, and I've got a gallon, so we're going to pour that in there and hope for the best. Got some Rotella T4 1540 diesel oil. Main reason I've got the Rotella is just because I found it laying around the shop, so I threw it in my deal to bring with me. And I didn't bring a funnel, so I'm doing a really good job of pouring it all over the place. Alright, that's all the oil we got, so that should be just right. I didn't really know what I was getting into, so I kind of just grabbed stuff that I had to bring with. When I spoke to the guy, he didn't know much about it, and when I looked up the address on the MapQuest, or they don't use MapQuest anymore, the navigator, whatever, on the phone, it made it look like it was pretty close to a town, so I figured there may be a parts store or something close by I could at least limp it to or walk to or whatever. Well, close by is about 15 miles away. So looks like it's a little bit low on brake fluid. The front reservoir is full, the back's a little low, so we might have front brakes. I don't know that we will, but there's hope. We at least have a emergency brake because I moved the lever and the bus started moving. So worst case, we can stop with that. The guy that I bought it from told me they drove it to here, so I'm assuming that it moved and stopped, so that's a good sign. I'm pretty sure none of y'all know this, but I worked in transportation on buses for about 15 years, so I know a little bit about these. Power steering fluid in there, that'll get us somewhere. I'm looking for a transmission dipstick, but I'm not seeing one. Oh, here it is right here. Good. And it's very clean and red and on the full mark. So granted it's not running, but we know there's fluid in it and it's clean fluid, so I'm happy with that. Alright, last thing we got to check is the coolant, and then we'll go move on to the next thing. Okay, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I took the cap off of the coolant while my wife was still here just checking things, and there wasn't any coolant in the surge tank. So I brought 6 gallons of water with me, and it took 5.5 gallons to fill it up. So I feel pretty good about that. I know it's got water in it now. And then I just happened to notice that this overflow hose is broken off. And I've got good reason to believe that that's why it's puking water out. I bet it's just puking it out when it's running, when it builds pressure. I'm going to go look through my stuff, see if I have anything to either block that off or patch it up. If I don't, we might do some crazy stuff with duct tape and sticks, whatever else I can find, and at least try to get it to a town, parts store, gas station, somewhere to try to do something with it. So let me look around in my stuff and see what I got, and I'll let you know. Alright, I looked through all my stuff and didn't have any luck finding anything. So I started walking around this parking lot here, see what I could find, and came across this stick. It just so happened to be on that tree over there. Imagine that. So I got this in my pocket knife. I'm going to try to whittle this down and stick it in here to plug this off. I don't necessarily know that plugging it off is a good idea, but should be okay. So that's what we're going to do. The thing about using this wood stick is if it's a little bit small when you put it in there, the when it keeps getting water and stuff on it, it'll get waterlogged and it'll swell up and kind of help seal itself off. It's not going to completely seal it. It'll probably still leak some out, but it will slow it down substantially. So that's a good thing. That's kind of what we're looking for. Alright, got that stuck in there. Maybe I don't want to put that in there. Maybe that's making it leak. Plug that off there and put that back where we got it from. We're still full of coolant. Because it was empty, I'm going to leave that off because I'm going to fire it here, if it'll fire, and see if it goes. So let's move you guys over here where you can see inside the bus, and I think we're ready to try to crank it. And I got nothing. New batteries. This thing's got to be in reverse, or neutral, I mean. Make sure it's a neutral. I'm sure it's got some kind of safety on it somewhere. And I don't know if I already mentioned this, but I got about a 200-mile drive home. So rather than trying to figure out what safety it is or whatever, we're just gonna hook up our start button. I got it on the starter already. We're gonna hit it. The thing about these old diesels, they can sit as long as they want and you can't kill them. I expected the fuel to have been bled down and I was going to have to put some fuel to get it primed, but I didn't. Fired right up. So I'm going to start putting some of my stuff in the bus and we'll check it out a little bit better. Tires look terrible, so I'm just ignoring them. But I don't see any puddles anywhere underneath it where stuff's been leaking, so I'm not going to worry about that. But just check it out, make sure nothing's going to fall off or anything like that, and hope I can get going here in the daylight, because when they painted the bus, they painted over all the turn signals, all the running lights, everything else, so I'm probably not going to do very well with the law enforcement officials on the way home. We're going to keep that close, we'll probably need it again. Okay, got decent oil pressure, no temp gauge at all. It's got a full tank of fuel. The alternator doesn't appear to be charging, and I've got no brake pedal. So we're going to sit here for a minute and let it run and see what we can do. pumping the brakes up, see if I can get something. So we'll see. Well, I pumped up the brakes, pumped up the brakes, pumped up the brakes. Still don't have any brakes. It moves and it runs good. So I got out and started looking around, and one or both of these brake lines right here is leaking, and they only go from here to here, but I don't have anything to fix them, and I don't have any way to get anywhere either. So it's pretty much either drive this or stay here forever, I guess. So I'm looking underneath it now. Doesn't look like the back brakes are leaking at all. It's just those lines up front, but those are all rotted out like that. There's a good chance if I get them fixed that it's probably rotted out and gonna blow somewhere else down the line. It's a pretty long drive to get out of this little hunt club here that I'm at. I think I'm gonna see if I can make it a little ways on the e-brake, and if not, then I have to figure out what I'm gonna do. It's dumping water out of that coolant overflow pretty good too, so you can see it, it's steady drip. Steady drip over here. It's coming out of that hole I was talking about there. So I guess I'll see if I can get this to go a little bit further, or get it to go somewhere on the brake. I can at least make it to a O'Reilly's or Advanced, or I hate to say it, but AutoZone or somewhere like that, then maybe I can do something with it. So we'll see what's going on, and I'll update you shortly. Well, we made it about a quarter mile, and bus is running great, drives great, but the drive shaft fell out. So I knelt down like this and looked underneath there. Drive shaft was in and looked fine. So I said, that's good enough, drive shaft's in it. So I hopped in it and took off. Well, at some point in time, somebody took a U-joint strap off of it, threaded the bolts back in there, and just had the drive shaft stuck up in there. So I got going quite a ways. You drive down and around that curve and down a big hill and around, and that's the parking lot where it was. But so now I'm 26 miles from the closest parts store that has anything to fix it, and my ride to get here is back at home, 200 miles away. And yeah, so kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to do. But while I've been sitting here trying to figure out what I'm going to do, I got it to start on the key, and other than that line leaking, I got the brakes to work. It wasn't getting power to the electric pump for the electric over hydraulic, and that's why I didn't really have any brakes. So I got the key, I got it starting on the key, and I got the brakes fixed except for the leak. But it's only leaking on the front, so I should still have rear brakes at least long enough to get to a parts store where I can get a brake line. It's maybe like a 12 or 14 inch piece of line that it unscrews on both ends, so if I can get it out without it breaking or anything, which I'm pretty good at, I should be able to, then I can just kind of bend up a new line to put in there, and then hopefully that'll get us home. So in the meantime, I'm making sure we got the parts, and I'm trying to find somebody to bring them to me. So I'm just sitting here. I'll keep you all updated. All right, I managed to locate the parts I need. The only thing is they're 200 miles away back by my house. I guess it's easy to find stuff when you know people. So my wife's gonna pick them up and pile all 4 of my kids in the car and drive the 200 miles back over here so that I can fix the bus and try to get it home. So I'm gonna just sit here and do nothing, maybe sing to myself or get out and skip around, or who knows, something, anything to pass the time. And then when she gets here and gets me the parts, I'll get back with you and we'll try to make it somewhere else. So stay tuned. I was sitting here bored, waiting, and sitting in the driver's seat, and I looked over at the side mirror on the left-hand side, and it was just a housing. There wasn't a mirror in it. And I was like, oh, it's gonna suck driving a 39-foot bus with only a passenger side mirror. And then I remembered when I was loading my Rubbermaid tub and all my stuff into the bus that there was something that resembled a mirror sitting on the floor back there. So I went back there and moved my Rubbermaid tub and looked around, and sure enough, there was a mirror covered in masking tape. And I brought aerosol glass cleaner with me because I didn't know how dirty the windshield and stuff was going to be from the bus sitting, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to see out of it driving it. And that masking tape was baked on there. Like, that tape's been on that mirror for a long time. So then I looked down over here on the passenger floorboard, and there's a razor blade. So I peeled as much of the masking tape as I could off, hosed the mirror down with the aerosol glass cleaner, scraped it clean with the razor blade, and put it back on. And then luckily I had some Gorilla Tape with me because never go anywhere without Gorilla Tape. So I took a couple pieces, put them on the edge of the mirror just to make sure it don't fall out, and now we got a mirror. So also, as I was sitting here thinking, this hole that we got in this overflow up here that I've stuffed everything I can think of into to make it stop leaking, I can take this hose clamp off, take my stick back out, I don't even have to take the hose clamp or nothing off. I can cut the hose back here past where it has the broken off piece in it, and I might be able to shrink that hose down a little bit and stick it in the hole, and it won't completely secure it or seal it off, but it's got to be better than it is. So I'm going to try to do that. I'll give you guys a little update when I get done with that while we're waiting. Okay, well, I'm an idiot, and I'll be the first person to admit it. I cut this hose off with the little piece that's broken out of the overflow tank because I plan on buying a new surge tank anyways. And I was just going to take this hose, stuff it in the hole. Well, the hose is way too big. But I took the little piece of hose with the hose clamp and the nipple that was broken out of the surge tank and tossed it over there somewhere. Well, the hose doesn't fit in the hole. So I kind of need that nipple, and I kind of screwed myself. So I was digging through my tool bag, and for some dumb reason I have the little filter valve that hooks up your brake booster on a vacuum brake vehicle, and it will fit in the hole and it'll fit in the hose. So it's plastic and it's probably gonna melt, but it might get me down the road for a little while. So I'm gonna try to just cut this end off of it, put one end in the surge tank, the other end in the hose. I have a hose clamp of some sort in my bag, and I'll see what else I can drum up in the bus or in my bag or whatever to try to seal the surge tank side. And even if I can't seal it, at least if I can get something, I don't know, that sun blinding you guys, Even if I can't seal it, if I can slow it down, that'll help. Also, I was just pacing back and forth in the bus looking around, and I came back here and said, huh, wonder where all that water's coming from on the floor. Well, these right here are the heater hoses for the rear under seat heaters that used to be back here that are taken out. The valves, the water valves for them are shut off up there in the front, but apparently they're leaking because it's letting a little bit of water back here. Where if you drive it 200 miles and it's slowly pumping water back here, it could eventually run you out of coolant like it did. So this is an issue, and the surge tank up there is an issue, but as long as I can keep water in it, I should be fine. Now, makes me a little nervous with that temp sending unit being busted off and me not having a gauge, but if I can just get it going, get it to a parts store, I can I'll get an aftermarket temp gauge or something and just stick it up in front of the windshield or whatever, just temporarily, just so I can have a temp gauge. Because 200 miles is a long way to not know how hot your motor is. Actually, it doesn't really matter how hot it is. I got to keep going. I just like to know if it's overheating or getting close to overheating, so I can pull over and let it cool down for a little bit. And I need to go to the parts store anyways because I need to fix that brake line that's leaking. So I talked to my wife. She's got my parts. They're loaded up, headed this way. I'm not giving up. We're going to get this darn bus back to my shop tonight one way or another. So stay tuned. As you can see, my little repair here didn't work. But it's all the way at the top of the surge tank. It's high enough up that I shouldn't lose tons and tons of coolant. I've got it full. And I've got to, like I said, I got to go to a parts store first anyways and fix that brake line and try to get some kind of temperature gauge. So I'll see if I can do something about fixing that, but if not, I'll fill my jugs back up with water and I'll just keep it full. I mean, it's only 200 miles, not like I'm going across country. Just stop every once in a while and check on it. Or if I get a temperature gauge in, if it starts to get a little bit warm, then I'll know, and I'll stop and add some. I got my little repair back here done. Folded the hoses over, put zip ties on them. Don't know that it's going to work, but once again, it might slow it down and get us a little further. So still waiting on parts. So still sitting here waiting. Can't blame anybody but myself. And I'm pretty bored. Ran out of stuff to do. Ran out of stuff to look at. But I got a bus. So I was sitting here looking around and I noticed this registration sticker on the window. It says expires last day of month stamped. So June of 2015. So I guess that answers my question. It's been sitting for 7 years. And it's also got an oil change sticker up there in the window that says it was changed 7/31 of 2009 at 212,949 miles. And it currently has 218,137 miles. So it got an oil change 6,000 miles ago, and 13 years ago. So it should be all right. I put a little bit of new stuff in. That should, you know, make it better. So hopefully it's had the oil change since then. When I get to the parts store, I'm going to take a look at it and see what happens. But can't get to the parts store until I get parts. Doesn't make any sense, but it does. So just giving you an update. I'm on an hour. Doesn't matter anymore sitting here waiting. So as soon as I get the parts, I'm going to get the U-joint thrown in here with the no tools that are needed to put a U-joint in. And then we're going to carry on. So I'll update you in a little bit. Oh, my wife and kids made it back with the parts and got the drive shaft put back in. Went to go head down the road and it still don't have a lick of brakes, and at 3 miles an hour the parking brake barely stops it. So it's rush hour right now and I got to go through 2 big cities to get home, and then it's going to get dark and I'd rather have a little bit of daylight to do this. So I'm gonna ride home with the wife and kids and then come back over first thing tomorrow and get some brakes going on this thing, and then we'll drive it back to the house, to the shop. So have a good night. We'll see you in the morning. Okay, we're back. Day 2 of the school bus revival. Went home last night and got some rest. Went to the parts store this morning, picked up some parts. We're gonna try to seal up this brake line leak here and put a temp gauge on it. And I got some stuff to try to fix the this overflow hose up here where it's leaking real bad. I got a fitting and some JB weld, and we're gonna try to just seal it off just to get it home. So here we go again. Hopefully we'll actually cover some miles today. Pardon the wind noise, and my wife and my 1-year-old daughter are kind of hanging out to make sure I get it going for a little bit. So you may hear my 1-year-old in the background yelling "Dada" a lot of times. But she's having a good time. So got some JB stick weld. Got a little hose bib or hose barb here. We're gonna try to kind of weld this in that hole and see if we can get it to halfway seal up so we can keep some more water in this thing. Didn't do too bad. It held water overnight, but it wasn't running. There's water in there. All right. A lot of these parts I bought, I was kind of guessing, so you're going to see that they're not really close to what we need. This fitting is a little bit on the small side. I kind of would have liked it to be a little bigger, but if I would have tried to go bigger, it would have been my luck. I'd have got too big and then it wouldn't have fit at all. So. Stuff's nasty. I hate it. Probably never get it off my hands, but it says it sets in 15 minutes and cures in an hour, so hopefully that's the case and it'll work. The reason I'm doing this first rather than the brake lines that I need to get home is I took PB Blaster and soaked down all those rusty brake fittings. I'm kind of letting them sit for a little bit, hoping they'll loosen up a little bit. So I'm just kind of knocking out a couple of these other little small things that I need to get done before I go to those. And get this done so it has time to set up and cure while I work on the other stuff. So I kind of have a plan. Been thinking about it since yesterday. So I have no idea if that's going to work. It's shot in the dark, but better than nothing, hopefully. So I bought a aftermarket temperature gauge. Sorry, my mind wasn't working. So I'm gonna try to get the fitting where the original temperature sending unit was out, and hopefully not bust it off in the process, because if I bust it off, I do not have the tools to get it out. So I'm not gonna try real hard. I'm gonna give it a little bit, and if it acts like it's moving, then I'll probably pull it out. If it doesn't, I might just leave it, and we'll just hope for the best on the temperature. Oh, I got it turning, so cross your fingers. And it's probably going to geyser water out when I get it out, because there's a lot of water up above this level. Hey, there's the other piece that broke off. At least I know where the wire is for when I get a new one to do it right. And here comes the water. Oh yeah, we're gonna lose a lot. Luckily I brought some more. I had to slow that leak down a little bit until I get ready. Okay, so I just got a cheap regular mechanical temperature gauge from the parts store this morning. I'm gonna go ahead and screw this in there, and then I don't have a drill with me, for one. Two, I don't want to drill any holes in the firewall, and three, I don't see any holes where this will fit through. So I've watched enough episodes of Roadkill. I'm just gonna run it up and tape it to the cowl or zip tie it to the windshield wiper or something, just so I've got a temp gauge and I know what my temp is. I'm gonna fix it right when we go further with this project, but for now I got a long drive home and I just want to make sure I can keep an eye on it. Well, hopefully we didn't lose more than 2.5 gallons of water, because that's all I got, but we'll be all right. There's a lake down there, I can always get some more. Alright, got that nice and tight. Got our old sending unit so we can get the right one to replace it eventually. And that project, well, I still got to run that up and tie it off somewhere. I think Gorilla Tape's going to be the answer to this. And probably won't stay, but we're going to try it anyways. So I'm going to clean the body up there real good with some window cleaner and towels, and then I'll try to tape that down somewhat and see if I can even see it from the driver's seat. Then I'll update you when I get done with that. Alright, I got my temperature gauge all hooked up and mounted. If you want to call it that. But there it is right there. Put a half a roll of Gorilla Tape on it to try to hold it, and I can see it sitting here, so we should be good. I got a temperature gauge now, that makes me feel a little bit better. And my JB weld's drying on my surge tank over there. The sun's beating on it, so hopefully that'll help out. So the only other thing I really got is get some brakes. So I'm gonna go see if I can get those lines to break loose without breaking them off, and go from there. Looks like the hose is leaking up here too. I don't have a hose. That's going to the rear. Let me see if I can at least get front brakes. Didn't expect that to come loose. Break it loose down here. Alright, I'm trying to get all these lines off. I don't think the lines that I brought are the right size. So we're going to have to run into a part store or something and try to find the right lines, but I don't know how well you can see this, but it's got rubber lines here. So the body and the frame, the bushing can have a little bit of movement. I know I'm not going to be able to find those at a local part store or anything. So what I'm going to try to do is just get brake lines that are long enough to run straight from the master cylinder down to the distribution blocks. And then I'll leave a little bit of flex in them so they got some room to move, but it's not going to be a permanent fix. I'll order those online later, but just to get me home. So I'm going to go ahead and get those the rest of the way off, and we'll go see what we can find. Okay, I got the brake lines fixed. We went to the part store that was supposed to be right down the road, and it was 30 some minutes away, and by the time I got there and dealt with the people at the part store that didn't know anything and got back, we were rushing because my wife had to leave again to go get the kids on time from school, and I came back and was frustrated and got back to work and didn't even think about filming it. But before I show you this, I'm gonna tell you, public service announcement: do not do this. This is strictly to get me home, and it might not even do that. And for lack of better words, it's probably just stupid. But as you can see, the old brake lines had a chunk that came down off the master cylinder, went into these rubber lines, and then went back to hard line and went, actually that end was the master cylinder, this end went down to the splitters, but that doesn't matter. As you can see, these rubber lines look bad. They were everything, I don't know what was leaking. It was leaking, and I didn't have any luck finding those rubber lines, and I didn't really look too hard for them. because I just said screw it. The only reason that rubber line's in there is because the rubber body mount lets the body and the frame move a little bit different, so it just lets the lines have give so they're not all tight. But anyways, here we go. This is what I did. I couldn't get lines that were long enough, so I had to get short lines, run them into unions. I bent them down, made sure I had plenty of room around the drive shaft, and hooked them up. Now, they do have some give to them. If the body moves separate from the chassis, it'll have some give. This is not permanent. Before I start actually driving this thing regularly, I'll order the right brake lines, get them put back on. But brake lines are done. I just checked my JB weld from this morning, and that thing seems to be on there real nice and tight, which surprises me because I didn't bring any sandpaper, clean up the rust, clean out the paint, nothing. I just shoved that fitting in there and stuck that JB weld on there, but I just went over and grabbed it and jiggled it, and it's not moving. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook that hose up, top this thing off with water, and try to figure out how to bleed brakes by myself. I might just try to gravity bleed them. I don't know that that's gonna work. I'd hate to be going down a hill on a windy mountain narrow road and find an air bubble. So I'm gonna think about that for a little bit and see what we got. But if we have any brakes, it's better than what we had yesterday. So I'm gonna hook that hose up, top off the water, and see what's going on after that. All right, got the hose put back on. It seems to be good. Top the water off. I got it running now. Trying to let it build a little bit of heat and move some water to make sure I got that full. And we moved it from its spot. It drove over here. So, not leaking water like it was. I have some brakes, but I didn't have anybody to help me bleed them. So some brakes means there's some air in there, but they stop it. Old girl smokes a little bit, but it's kind of to be expected. Been sitting for a while. She's old, got a lot of miles on her. I'm gonna head up the road and see what happens. At least up this road here, up to the gate to the property, and see if I can make it farther than I did yesterday. So we're gonna drive for a little bit and I'll update you. Well, I made it 15 miles, which is a lot better than yesterday. And well, first of all, I made it a mile, and my JB weld repair on the overflow tank failed. Hose fell down, blew water everywhere. So I grabbed it, stuck it back in there, threw a couple zip ties on it. Seems to be holding up pretty good as long as the water level in the surge tank stays below that hose, which it's right at the top. So I poured the little bit of water that I had left in it and continued down the road. Made it about 7 miles, and I started smelling burning brakes really bad. And sorry, I just ate a really nasty Rice Krispie treat from the gas station. But there wasn't anywhere to pull over. Like, there wasn't even a shoulder on the side of the road I could get on, so I just took it easy and kept humping. Got to a gas station and smoke's just barreling out of the right rear brake. So I eliminated that brake, let's just put it that way. So I'll still have my front brakes and my driver's side rear. Got some more water, topped it off, checked the oil and all that, everything looks good. So temperature's running good, about 160, 165 pulling hills, which when I say pulling hills, it's not. Top speed I've been able to get it to is 45, but part of that could be because that brake's dragging. So now I should have it not dragging anymore. We'll see what happens, but I'm off the mountain roads and I'm starting to get back into town, the first town. So about 185 miles to go. It's starting to get dark. Don't know if the lights work, didn't even check them. So we're gonna get as far as we can. I'll update y'all again in a little bit. Okay, I've made it another 50 miles or so and finally got to the first parts store. Now you can't see it because I had to park in the back, but made it to the first parts store that's on my way home. I went to the one that was about 30 minutes away earlier, but it was in the opposite direction. It was just the closest. So it's doing good. Ever since I eliminated that brake, it's driving a lot better. The smoking's almost gone away, and not losing as much water as long as I leave the water level below where that hose goes in. Doesn't seem to be puking it out as bad. I'm gonna keep checking it just because. And never noticed that before, but that hose doesn't look very good either. Might put some electrical tape on that, but yeah, it's not doing too bad. Like I said, it's driving quite a bit better without the brake dragging. These tires, I don't know if I showed them to you earlier or not, but that one don't have really anything left on it. That one don't have really anything left on it. They're down past the wear bars almost. So, but everything's going pretty good. I bought some stuff to put a cigarette lighter plug-in in there so that I could charge my phone, because it's about dead, and I'm using it for directions, and my wife keeps calling me every 10 minutes to check on me. So I bought some stuff for that. I got a cigarette lighter, some wire, some butt connectors, phone charger, little stuff. So I'm gonna sit here and take a break for a minute and wire this charger in, and then we're gonna keep on going. All right, well, I'm finished up with this stop. Got my cigarette lighter professionally wired in, charging my phone, checked everything over, everything seems okay. So we're gonna put her in gear and head down the road. All right, well, you guys probably can't see anything because neither can I, but we're back at my shop. So she did really good, made the trek all 200 miles. Obviously it's dark now and it wasn't, but she made it. And now I'm gonna park her over on the side of the shop so we can finish up some other projects and save up a little bit of money, and then there's gonna be a huge project coming with this thing. So hit the subscribe button so you know when something happens, because you're not gonna wanna miss it. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.